Well, we're live, allegedly. Some people have already joined. America attacks Iran, UK does nothing. No, because America and Israel were right to attack Iran, which then immediately attacked its innocent Muslim neighbors, at least one of whom joined the war against the evil, mass murdering, psychopathic regime in Iran, which is currently killing its own children and absolutely morally grotesque. So, if you have any doubts about that one, be sure to ask again. Ghetto B is the issue. Wish people wouldn't chat gibberish. Don't know what that is. Good. We are here because I felt like we should do a live stream because I haven't done one for ages. If you subscribe to my Substack, you get a live stream every week on a Friday. I'm on Mike Graham's show every Wednesday. We're still sorting out when I'll be on talk regularly, but I hope to be on talk regularly. I have a new podcast with Annunciata Rees-Mogg, which should be weekly, touch wood, although I've completely messed up this week because I'm giving a talk to New Culture Forum, which she doesn't know yet. So I'm going to have to break it to her tomorrow. No one tell her that we're going to have to change the filming dates. Hopefully we can still get an episode out next week. That's the most important thing. And there will be consistent content. There will be more videos for YouTube. That's what I see this mainly as, a platform for videos and not necessarily live streaming. If you really like live streaming, I would recommend you subscribe to my Substack. Good evening, Stephen. Thank you very much, Hevchip. When I'm on mic, I think I should point out that I can't see the comments, but I can see Superstack comments. There is something amazing about that, the way that it just cuts through. And that's Mike Graham's show on Wednesday mornings, to those who don't know. But let's start off with the topic of this live stream, which is the simple fact that today we discovered that the Prime Minister has been covering up the fact that Iran is attacking the United Kingdom. So for the first time ever, we are at war because we're being attacked. And our government is trying desperately hard to pretend that we're not at war and doing absolutely nothing to defend us. Because it was discovered, we don't know how many days ago it was. The paper who reported it said it was the day before. And then all of a sudden it turned out actually it was several days before. So the government has been lying to us for a persistent period of time when we are being shot at with intercontinental ballistic missiles, which could very well have had a nuclear payload if the Americans and the Israelis hadn't done what they did. So thank God it didn't have a nuclear payload. And thank God that the mullahs are so rubbish that the Americans managed to either shoot down those missiles or that they missed. But this is an absolutely outrageous part of my life. I've never known the United Kingdom to be under attack by an aggressive, hateful foreign power. Make no bones about it. Iran hates us. You know, I went to Maya Tusi's wedding and we had to have a special security because Iran is desperately, or their mullahs are desperately trying to kill Maya. I mean, this is just absurd. My entire life, I've known about Salman Rushdie and their desire to kill him, and they got him again recently. These are absolutely evil people. Thank you to everybody saying hi. Is everybody else getting really worried? I'm getting really worried about the competency of my government. If it hides the fact that we're being attacked. I don't understand how the government is allowed or gets away with hiding the fact that we are being attacked. Because somebody's asking me what shampoo do I use. I can't remember. I get it from Iceland. So it's not very glamorous. But it works, and that's fine. The simple fact is that we are obviously at war, and our government is hiding this fact from us, and that is simply outrageous. We're not doing anything in reply because the government got caught out. The foreign secretary, who turns out it's Yvette Cooper. Who knew it was even Yvette Cooper? Thank you, Timothy Wilson, and you just made my life so much easier because you're now visible. I wanted to make it clear to people that even when I'm a guest on Mike Graham's show, I get to see the super chat questions, the donation questions. Even I can see them. I can't see any other chat, but I can see the donation questions. This entire system makes it so much easier to see a question, even if it's like a 99p donation. It's just easier. Shock horror. The government lied. Who would have thought it? Well, Timothy, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And they've wheeled out Yvette Cooper, who, again, it turns out she's the foreign secretary. I mean, who knew that? Anyway, Yvette Cooper's apparently the foreign secretary, and apparently that's a good thing, and apparently we're definitely safe with Yvette Cooper as foreign secretary. Anyway, she's been wheeled out and she's come up with this complete gibberish. And I want to explain to non-lawyers why this is so infuriating. If we are attacked, then a state of war exists. Okay, and if a state of war exists, we can lawfully do anything that isn't a war crime in our defense to protect us, to win the battle, to defeat the bad people who are firing, who are firing at you. That's what you can do. And just in your normal life, you can, if you're attacked in the pub tonight, you can defend yourself as long as it's not you don't do a war crime. So you can't nuke the guy, and you can't, kick. If he falls down on the floor and he passes out, you're not allowed to carry on kicking him. Okay, fine. There are some limits on what you can do, but you can take all reasonable steps to protect yourself. And this is where the communists are going wrong time and time and time again. They hate self-defense. And to have Yvette Cooper, who apparently is the foreign secretary, anyway, to have Yvette Cooper going on the broadcast and saying, "Oh, we will only take defensive actions. We will not have aggressive actions, and some of them will come from Diego Garcia, and none of them will come from Cyprus." This ridiculous bureaucratic nonsense. Imagine trying to fight the Second World War like this. We will invade the desert armies of Rommel from the east, but not from the west, because we don't think we have legal authority to. It's just nonsense. How would you ever have got the SAS? How would you ever have done anything that we did heroically during the war to protect us and the world from the monstrous evil? And again, we face a monstrous evil, which I just remind everybody is firing intercontinental ballistic missiles at us. And our foreign secretary, turns out it's Yvette Cooper. Anyway, our foreign secretary then tries to hold some ridiculously legalese mess of words, which I mean, I'm getting to the point of utter frustration with these people. I am a very well educated, very committed lawyer. I've always been committed to law. I love law. I read law in like mad. Unlike Billio, always have read it in areas of law that I don't practice in. So it doesn't even make me any money. I just carry on reading it and learning it. I went down a rabbit hole recently with more public law, and just don't worry, I'll try and turn it into articles or something. But I'm obsessed with law. And all I can say when Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper, turns out she's the foreign secretary. Anyway, when they say this gibberish, all I can say is one word. Bollocks. Because I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else to encapsulate the. I mean, my dad doesn't swear, so my dad would just go, no. That's probably what he would say, but I feel the need to just be absolutely. I don't want to just say no. I want to deny everything that you've said. I want to repudiate the entire foundation of your so-called argument. Everything you are saying is nonsense. We are not limited to so-called allegedly defensive actions. We have been attacked. We can take all reasonable steps short of a war crime to protect ourselves. That's it. Everything else can go away. We can only take defensive. No, bollocks. So if you see Yvette Cooper, and apparently she's our foreign secretary, but if you see Yvette Cooper, I just want you to very, very clearly and politely just explain that she's talking complete nonsense. A gibbering, to be honest, have we all seen the video of that cat that just goes, no, 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 no? That would be more useful than our foreign secretary, who it turns out is Yvette Cooper. Have Chip, go to Specsavers, Stephen. Do I need glasses? I might know. I don't know. Nice to hear some common sense. Thank you from Real Thinking Monkey. I don't know if Hillary's here, but Sai is here. The people that I'm very fond of is because Substack is a much smaller community, so we all know each other's names, particularly the paid subscribers who are called Lovelies. So again, if you like this and you want a regular Q&A, the best thing to do is to sign up to my Substack. You get additional paid content as well. There's an article coming out tomorrow on just how we got into such a mess over the Islamophobia definition. So I won't explain that here. But yeah, I just don't understand how we are in the position where the United Kingdom is being attacked with intercontinental ballistic missiles and drones and other bombs, where our citizens are being put under threat and their lives are threatened. Maya Tusi's life is threatened. You know, the Niak Gombali, his life is threatened. The Iranian regime is pure toxic evil, and the Labour government is trying to run round just to pretend it isn't happening. They're like Hyacinth Bouquet for those old enough to remember. They're just in complete denial as to what's going on. Mrs. Ball's her husband doesn't have any. Well, I don't think she has any either. I mean, they're just reciting complete gibberish. And I'm getting very, very frustrated at the way that they try and pretend that the reason they can't do anything is the law. It's absolutely fundamentally dishonest. I'm also pretty upset with Cyprus right now because they, in a massive wall of text, the Cypriot presidency has put out basically a threat to our sovereign territory on the island of Cyprus. That's our territory. It belongs to us, upon which we have 2 major military bases, but the land itself belongs to us. It's our land. It's no different. I'm in my house. My house belongs to me. You don't get to put out a long statement on Twitter as to why you own Stephen's house. That's not going to happen. But we are currently, the fact that the presidency of Cyprus felt able to threaten us is because of how pathetically weak we are. Look, Mauritius is threatening us. This is like being a grown man and being beaten up by a 4-year-old. We are so pathetic. I just can't get it. Crag says, I hope you and your family are well. That's incredibly kind. Does anybody have a question? We sort of, if we don't, I'll just carry on going through the legal issues of the day, of which the Iran war is, to my mind, one of the most important. We're not weak, Starmer is. Yes, I think that's a very important point to make. Maybe we should. Hello, Timothy. Thank you very much. Difference for Labour is that Ukraine versus Russia did not involve Muslims. Now, to do with law, it's different with the Mideast and involves their voter base. We have to always, but it's coming to a fore now. The good Muslims are speaking out. So Layla Cunningham put out a statement today, making it very, very clear that she prioritizes British interests, not Muslim interests. Okay, she's a Muslim. It's fine. She prioritizes the interests of Britain, and if she's elected mayor of London, that's what she's going to do. And several other good British Muslims have been phoning into stuff. I think I saw one on Talk, one on GB News, just saying, look, we're not with these Islamist nut jobs. Okay, we're just not with these nut jobs. One I saw on Twitter put out a statement that she also thought that publicly praying was wrong, because it's obviously wrong. So we're going to may well come to shove. But always remember, the Labour Party and this Prime Minister don't support Muslims, or not British Muslims. They support Islamic extremists. And there's a big difference in that. And our Muslim friends in the UAE have for years been warning us and going, you've got an Islamic extremist problem. Obviously, our Muslim friends in the UAE don't think Muslims are wrong, by default, and they're not. But if you have a bunch of whack jobs, and we do, then you do have a massive risk before us. And Labour's inability, Timothy, to deal with that is the problem. And if the voter base, if Labour's voter base and the Green Party's voter base is made up of not normal Muslims, not good, decent people like Layla Cunningham, if they're made up of extremists, then we have a massive problem, because we basically have 2 political parties which are supporting either terrorists or quasi-terrorists. And that's a huge issue. I am personally terribly worried about the next atrocity. And I've stopped sort of thinking about it in any other terms. I think we're going to see another atrocity. It's like every single day we see a rape. Every single day we see a migrant committing a crime. We are seeing atrocity after atrocity after atrocity. But if anybody has a question, flag it up. But I'd just like to get on to the big list, which is the reasons why Keir Starmer needs to resign. One of the ones that I think has really fallen through the cracks is that he had a meeting with a big company that's involved in digital ID called Palantir. who he then and his government awarded a massive government contract to, hundreds of millions of pounds. And it was all arranged through Peter Mandelson, that most noble of pedo friends. And it wasn't recorded. And Keir Starmer is currently trying to pretend that the meeting didn't happen, despite the fact that The Guardian published a picture of the meeting happening. That alone is a reason for a British Prime Minister to resign. Okay? Let's get this absolutely clear. The attack on the base in Cyprus, the keep lying and hiding the attack on Diego Garcia, that alone is a reason for a British Prime Minister to resign. We are getting so many reasons for Starmer to resign. But Brute Life has just very kindly donated. And so I'll have to read that off topic. But can you explain where in the law I have freedom of speech and how those laws are being attacked right now? Thanks. Well, the idea of freedom of speech is massively being attacked right now. It's being attacked mostly because of vague language and vague laws. So what's happened over the last 20 years in particular is that we've passed a load of incredibly vague laws. So we're basically almost at the point where if you cause offense, you're committing a crime. Now that's incredibly subjective and a very bad idea. So the law is neither good or bad at any particular time. Our laws right now are very badly written. Freedom of speech is being fundamentally undermined, particularly online. Ofcom is fundamentally undermining itself, undermining free speech in the press and in the media. If it felt able to, it would do it here, and it would say that it regulates me. I don't think it's yet at that position, because one of the things that you have to look at all this as a cunning plan. So imagine you're an evil communist who just wants to control your fellow humans. Okay, just put yourself in that space. Put that hat on, maybe a little mustache of evilness, and you're an evil person who wants to control others. And you sit there and you go, ha, I have a cunning plan. What's your cunning plan? I'm going to make the law so complicated that no one will know what it is. And therefore, when I find my opponents and they're doing things I don't like, I will say it is illegal, and no one will know whether that's true or not. But I will say it is, so that will be great. When I do things that are bad, no one will know what the law is, so no one will be able to say that I'm doing wrong, because I'll say, no, I'm not. I'm acting perfectly legally. I'm an evil authoritarian communist. This is a brilliant plan. That's basically Ofcom in a nutshell. Unfortunately for Ofcom, GB News sued them and said, your rules don't make any sense. And the High Court looked at their rules and went, Ofcom, you're making about as much sense as Yvette Cooper. Your rules don't make any sense. So yeah, you can't prosecute GB News. Your rules don't make any sense. So Ofcom is now wounded and in its bunker going, our cunning plan has blown up in our face. We thought that we would just always be able to say that what the rules is what we say they is. And that, to put it in a summary, is why freedom of speech is under attack, because nobody actually knows what the law is. The biggest problem at the moment is legal confusion. The biggest threat to everybody's free speech rights is an officer wrongly interpreting the law. And you see that time and time again. You see these arresting of street preachers. You see all sorts of just the police officer doesn't know what the law is, but the police officer doesn't say, I don't know what the law is. The police officer says, I definitely know what the law is. And, and as humans do, doubles down. And then innocent people end up arrested. And then the Free Speech Union and Toby Young has to sue them, and then they get compensation. This is very much like me being dragged out of Marylebone Station. It's just a very irritating situation in which a human being thought they had power and doubled down, because humans always double down. I mean, I often find people on Twitter, if I have to correct somebody making a mistake, 9 times out of 10, they will respond with personal abuse. 9 times out of 10. They won't go, oh, thank you, Stephen. I know that you don't mean any abuse to me and you are only correcting a mistake, because that's all I'm ever doing. I don't mind if people make mistakes, that's fine. And particularly over law, given how incredibly complicated it is, we're bound to make mistakes. And I just don't have this hysteria about making mistakes. And it's just not, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. But if I have to correct somebody's mistake on Twitter, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, I'm going to be blocking them within 2 to 3 tweets, because they're going to come back with some hysteria, just angry. And I think we all have to reflect on that. I reflect on that. And I think we have to realize that it's okay to make a mistake. It really is. One of the best things I've heard Nigel Farage say recently is about forgiveness and redemption. And I don't know about the central party, but the local parties, locally, everybody just has to. The good thing about reform is everybody has to admit that we weren't in reform at the beginning. We all came from somewhere, so we've all like got baggage, and that's fine as long as we go. Actually, I made a mistake. I was, it wasn't the best thing, and I should have been here. And that's okay. This is this is the only solution to the narcissistic society that we live in is for it to be okay to make a mistake. And one of the curious constitutional functions of our society, which I think the French do the opposite. The French have an official language. The French have a legally official language. They have a college that polices French language. We've never done that. Spelling in our country is not law. Okay, it's never been law. It's never been regulated. It's never been controlled by the state. I know Dr. Johnson created a dictionary, and I know that there are dictionaries out there, but spelling is not law. So if you make a typo, it's actually not that bad. And one of the ways that you tell that our society's got a bit out of tilt with just making a simple, unimportant error is that people sort of now will rip into each other on social media over typos. No one cares. If you can make a typo is only relevant if you can't tell the meaning that is intended, which hardly ever happens with a typo. I get people apologizing to me, and they'll post the second tweet going, "Oh, I'm sorry, I meant this word." And it's like, yes, I did realize that, because and we just need to be much more forgiving about things and not hold ourselves to ridiculously high standards. And obviously, we're all going to make typos. And I sort of dress like this and look like this to sort of make that point. That I don't have to be perfect. I am not a narcissist. I don't, my hair, I think my hair looks a bit greasy today, to be perfectly honest. I did wash it, but, I play with it a lot during the day, and it's now early evening. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Look, I'll have a hole. Oh, there's a hole there in my jumper. Dear Liza, dear Liza. Doesn't matter. No one gives a toss. It doesn't, my lampshade's wonky. We need to start being much more forgiving. And that's when Nigel started to speak like that, because I'm paying a lot of attention to what people are actually saying and what arguments they're saying. Okay. And when people like Nigel start to say things like, "Oh, a veteran. Okay, I will always respect veterans." I'm going to read the veteran. "We are being attacked within our own shores." They had a big prayer meeting in Trafalgar not so long ago. Yes. And there was a terrible meeting in Birmingham yesterday. We have a state religion, and that state religion is the Church of England, and we are Christian. That state religion belongs in the public space. Other religions are welcome to the public space as long as they don't abuse that kindness, frankly. And mass Muslim public prayer is obviously abusing that public space. That's what Layla Cunningham has said today. That's what a number of decent Muslims have come out and said. We're a tolerant, kind country. We let people build mosques. We've got loads of mosques. You want to pray, you go pray in a mosque. Okay, you go do that. Go do that. We've got prayer rooms in every airport. We've got prayer rooms all over the place. Prayer rooms in courts. You go use them. Get out of the street. And there's a very simple, very useful, I think, Victorian statement about this. This was about sexuality, which is that I'll just recite it for you, which is, "Do whatever you like in the bedroom. Don't do it in the street and frighten the horses." Okay, and that was the British approach to sexual morality for a very long time. Okay, that it's when we weren't some repressive fascist regime that punished people like me who have same-sex attraction. They just told us not to be blatant, and that was an okay-ish position. I still prefer now, but again, I'm publicly very prudish. I don't do public displays of affection. I'm also monogamous, and I try and be respectable, and I don't talk about my sexuality near children, because children don't need to know about sexuality at all. So the great the great myth for me is that clause, I think it was clause 28 or whatever, people got hysterical about Margaret Thatcher putting a clause into law that you can't teach children, particularly young children, about sexualities. And it's like, well, I don't mind that. They're going to discover what they're going to discover when they're adults. Leave kids alone. I'm more than happy to just leave kids alone. Ukrainian, anybody Ukrainian that might be interested in the news, it's going to be in April. Don't say anything until April because we don't want to prejudice any things that might be happening. But obviously, I'm paying attention. There are so many things I pay attention to that I can't necessarily talk about necessarily at the best of times. But that doesn't mean, the Douglas of Murray, this is the fan of Douglas. We've all made mistakes in life. Exactly. He is who is without sin cast the first stone, said God. So, get a bloody grip. And typos in particular. I mean, I am a bit OCD, so I am a bit obsessive about not committing crimes, but that's largely because I know what all the crimes are. If I'm on the tube and I get off on a crowded tube train, I will see hundreds of people going through the do not enter to get off. They're just trying to get off the platform. I won't do that because, unlike them, I know that that's a crime, because trespass normally is not a crime. But the railways were so powerful politically during the 19th century that they got Parliament to say that trespassing on a railway is a crime. The underground is railway, so trespassing on the underground is a crime, and I therefore won't commit that crime because I know what it is. When I see all the people committing that crime, I don't like try and burn them alive or like have a go at them. I just assume they don't know it's a crime. And that's probably, if I'm honest, I probably think we have way too many crimes, which we do, because even I, who tried desperately hard to not commit even any tiny crime, often find it difficult not to commit crimes. I've had so many hysterically awful experiences with something like Amazon, where it's like I'll be like, they'll be like, yeah, sorry that happened, you can just keep it. And I'll be like, but no, I don't own it. It's not mine. And then I'll create more of a problem because I just won't accept it. So the world shouldn't be like me. I appreciate I'm way too bad at all of this. Mrs. Brown Alliance, why don't we as Christians organize a big sermon service in Trafalgar Square and see what happens? Well, I mean, it is two-tier at the moment, but I would like to see Christianity and the Church of England restored. I think, to be honest, I'm quite liking the Scottish approach, where the Scots don't have any bishops at all. Our bishops are completely useless. 11 out of, I think, 24 bothered to turn up to vote against murdering babies. I mean, that's the other big legal news story of the week. We need to talk about murdering babies. If the bill receives royal assent, we are going to be a country that murders babies. At 9 months and 1 week pregnant, about to give birth, if the mum takes poison and kills the baby, murders the baby, that will be lawful. If the mum goes abroad with foreign doctors we can't reach and we can't extradite, and they, at 9 months and 1 week, because I'm saying this deliberately because I know, I've experienced this, sometimes you go over terms. Babies aren't literally born on the 9th month. Lots of them are, and that is the average, but some are shorter, some are longer. And so let's look at the case where if it's longer, you're allowed to murder the baby. Yet 1 minute after birth, you're not allowed to murder the baby. That is not a line that makes any legal sense at all. And that is murder. The Archbishop of Canterbury gave a speech in the House which was absolutely pathetic. I think she's a pathetic, woke, weak DEI hire woman. I have absolutely zero moral respect for her. She basically said that, well, she was equivocal. She suggested it was a complicated matter. She did vote against it. That's the best you can say in her defense. And the 11 bishops did vote against. That's the best you can say in their defense. But there was nothing about morality, about the importance of babies' lives, about what we are doing, about the importance of collective morality as a society. Nobody mentioned dads throughout the entire bloody thing. And that gets me very angry because, of course, many of us, including me, and I might have to explain this to God one day, and he might go, well, I was very specific, Stephen. And I might have to go, well, okay, God, but I had to live practically amongst humans, and it was quite tricky. So many of us will accept a compromise whereby abortion is not completely outlawed. And actually, I think our deadlines have been too generous for far too long. The European norm is 12 weeks. And even I'd probably go for 14. But I think this is that's where we should be having the debate. Not, okay, you can murder a baby. Brute Life says, I have 2-year-old. Oh, and my wife is 7 months pregnant. You are rich then. You are rich. You are rich beyond measure. For no one is richer than a father of children. No one. Move towards abortion hits harder for parents. I know. We had to induce small person at 8 months something. So small was a little bit premature. There was a temperature spike in Small's birth. So I had to take Small for a lumbar puncture within 1 hour of Small being born. That didn't work because Small was too tiny for a lumbar puncture to work. And so they put Small on antibiotics as a preventative measure. And the antibiotic machine would break if Small moved Small's arm. So I had to hold Small's arm and hand. That's where the feed went into for the antibiotics. Literally just very gently, hold it without moving my arm, because if I moved my arm, then the machine would go off too, for 2 hours. You know, I know how vulnerable these tiny little things are. Small's fontanelle, which is our skull is in 3 parts. We're born without a fused head, because that's the only way women will survive childbirth. If our children were born, all of our children are basically premature. Humans are prematurely born. Every other mammal can get up within like an hour of being born. Our children are born completely helpless. They're born without a fused skull, and they have something called a fontanelle. Small's was quite pronounced, and Small had very, very, very blonde hair, very, very little of it, very, very blonde hair. So I could see, and I remember just looking at this like, oh my God, what if something like you could pierce, like you could get to Small's brain with like a compass, or like a strongly pressed finger. And it's just like, oh my God, Small is so vulnerable. Small is so precious. And we as a country now are going to murder them. Are we? We're just going to murder them. That's what we're going to do. And I really fell out. I have a friend who voted for it, and I'm trying desperately hard not to fall out with them. I have many friends who voted against it, and I'm very, very happy and proud of them. I find it impossible to imagine why you would want this to happen. As far as I can see, there was a bit of moral panic and hysteria that if they didn't vote for this, we would never allow abortion, and women would be forced to carry children. This is just ridiculous. This is a charter to sign. And the other great mistake, by the way, is that there is no such thing as evil women. Okay. If I told you there was no such thing as an evil man, you would quite rightly laugh at me and tell me I was bonkers. If someone tells you there is no such thing as an evil woman, you should quite rightly laugh at them and tell them they are bonkers. We have had female psychopaths. We have male psychopaths. I don't even care if statistically we have more male psychopaths. It doesn't matter. The existence of one female psychopath is a reason to not have this law. Rose West, thank you. Yes, it is abhorrent. And I was glad to see that Suella Braverman, who is herself a mother, immediately made the reform position clear that this will be reversed under a reform government. Of course it must be. I didn't actually see, I'm not aware yet of the Conservative position, but I cannot believe the Conservative position will be any different, not least of all because the opposition in the Lords was led by Baroness Forster, who is an absolute powerhouse. She's still a Conservative. I wish she wasn't, but she is. She's an absolute bloody star. And the majority of people voting against this were Conservative peers, the bishops, and then the crossbenchers. And one man voted against this who I have disliked for a large number of years. And I just have to go, I respect you for this. I have to. You know, you're being asked to vote on baby murder, and the guy made the right call. So I have to climb down from all these years of I really don't like you and just go, do the right thing. You did the right thing. I was very disappointed when I heard in the morning and I read the list and I saw Lord Young. And I was very disappointed because I thought that was Toby Young. But then I went and I looked on the House of Lords websites, and actually, sod's bloody law, there are 2 Conservative peers called Lord Young. So the good one, Toby Young, voted on the side of babies and goodness, and a bad one, who I actually don't want to know anything about him. The fact he voted against babies tells me we're never going to be friends. So you just go. You just go. And the most telling thing, which I think it will eat away at the heart of the Conservative Party, for those who know in central government, is the amount of Conservative peers who didn't bother turning up. It's really quite shocking. Rupert Lowe will be the next Prime Minister. He really, really won't, Neil, but you're entitled to your view. If you get hysterical, a mod will block you. And I only say that because I've had a lot of experience of the online noise-making people. But I still respect people's right to their political views. We must not murder babies. But this is where we will get to evil in plain sight. Exactly. But this is where we're getting to. There is chronic throughout our society, through our elite in particular, is the idea that people are valueless. Whereas I am a Christian and I believe every single person has an immutable, incredibly valuable soul that God loves. I'm not joining Restore. No, I'm sorry. I've seen way too much. I've received too much anyway. If you wanted me to join a political party, don't attack my sexuality. Don't attack me as a person. Don't attack me for supporting Jews. Don't fire vile abuse at me and then say, please join my party. Or if you do, politics is not for you. So no, I won't be joining Restore at all. It'll be a cold day in hell before I join Restore. Anyway, Rupert Lowe can't even run the country. He'll be too busy suing everybody he's currently suing. He'll be taken up by so much bloody litigation. He won't have any time left to be Prime Minister. Liverpool didn't go well today. No, I saw that. I'm worried, Marion, about the rise in violence. This is why I don't think there's enough time. This is why I feel like reform, for me, it feels like the last chance. Yeah, Phil, there's a difference between trying to be perfectionist about a party and getting into bed with racists. Well said, Stephen. Thank you very much. Oh no, now I'll get a threatening letter. Oh, I wonder what will happen when Rupert sends me a threatening letter. Well, to be fair to Rupert Lowe, I couldn't run a football club either. So I'd spend all my time just looking at the pretty footballers, and it would go badly. But good evening, Miss Barrett. Thank you very much, Alicia. Seriously concerned about the growing Green Party support. You should be concerned about the Green Party support. A chap who allegedly supports Restore was telling everybody to vote Green because they're not yet ready. Everybody should be very worried about the Green Party. Their latest MP at the moment looks like a hostage with Stockholm syndrome. I mean, just keep an eye on her. I mean, people were a bit, I was a bit rude about how she dressed like a clown in the house because, you know, she dressed like a clown in the house. But ultimately, this may well switch into a, oh, is she all right? It's like, is she asking for Angela? Is she trying to signal that she's in danger? So I may well change. Hello, far away, who says hello. Greens are total nutters. We know what they are. They're just the alliance of the communists and the extreme Islamists. We don't want either communists or extreme Islamists. Thank you very much, Greek Life. Again, very generous today. This government is prepared to abort your time and euthanize you before your time. Yeah. Both of these guys has compassion, but it's so evil. It is evil. It's called utilitarian ethics, and I find that ironic because it's not ethical. It sees human beings entirely as meat units. I mean, I've got my lovely dogs. I don't see my dogs as meat unit. No, we're not meat. Even there's a lovely tale. If you go to the Natural History Museum, there is one floor up, right near the front on the right. There's the preserved body of a female hornet or type of wasp that lived. They were like not a companion, so they weren't a swarm. This was a type of wasp that lives on its own, normally in a little burrow. And there was a Victorian guy, because the Victorians are that's so weird, who wanted to study the species. So he kept this wasp, female wasp, as a pet. She was his pet. And he kept her as a pet her entire life. She would eat out of his hand. He observed her and noted it down. And this is all great for the study of that species of wasp. But as she got towards the end of her life, they live a few years. They're not like a 1-year creature. As she got towards the end of her life, he starts making these really lovely journal entries like, she stung me today. Obviously doesn't know who I am anymore. And it's like he had this loving relationship with a wasp. So to treat human beings like they're disposable things, to murder babies, to shove off little old ladies because they're a bit of a bother, to kill, and it will be the Down syndrome, who are lovely. There is just no reason to have any of this, to kill our vulnerable and our disabled. We have in Baroness Tammy, oh no, I'm going to get her name wrong, and I don't want to be impolite, so I don't. But we have a noble disabled baroness, I mean, noble disabled lord, who just point out that they will be pressured to kill themselves because they're a burden. This is absolutely shocking. Nobody is perfect, no, but someone must stop the rot. Exactly, and we really are heading towards an absolute, the darkest of dark places. My dad used to hand feed a pet praying mantis. Oh, that's really lovely. My small, because I actually get freaked out by insects, so I'm quite wussy. I have to be dad with spiders, obviously. I still am probably scared of spiders, but somehow being dad means I don't get half as scared. It's like I always say that one of the reasons I'm comfortable speaking in public is because I've done it a lot. Obviously, in the beginning, it was really scary, but when you're a barrister, you have a client and you go in and you meet them in the waiting room, and they're terrified, and you're like, all right, I can't be scared. I can't let them down. I have to look after. I have to do this for them. So I would go into the judge feeling braver because I had to look after them. That's my job. I can't let my worries get in the way of anything. And exactly the same if we have a spider in the house. I, as dad, have to deal with it. I don't really like creepy crawlies, but my child loves snails. But anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a one. Miss Brown Alliance says, I think we've gone past politics at this stage. I think we've really gone past a lot of narcissistic party politics. I think we just need to accept that the communists and the Islamists are real, that they really will destroy the country, that they really will turn us into an absolutely evil state in which we won't have freedoms, that this happened in Iran in 1979 and they're still, God willing, to get out of it. But, this is what happens to human societies. We're not magically immune to it by some virtue of something, I don't know, the wind. It could very easily happen here, and we are in the last chance saloon, because for the last 30 years at least, probably longer, but the last 30 years at least, the Fabian Marxists have been building all this infrastructure, it's almost like waiting for a dictator to happen. I don't know whether, I actually think that they're incredibly stupid, so I don't sort of really blame them, but absolutely awful. John says, will the king agree to sign off baby murder? He shouldn't, John, and I'm going to keep calling for him not to. What he actually does, we'll see, but I'm going to make the king's job. Baroness Jane Campbell of Surbiton, Baroness Tanny Gray Thompson, that's the one I was thinking of. But I don't know about Jane Campbell, but I'll go look at her, but I'm sure she's also on the side of the angels. Would you be an advisor for Reform UK? If not, you should be. I will help anybody who asks me. But I'm, there we are. Will the king sign off on baby murder is what I'm asked by John. I think we need to make it as difficult as possible for the king to sign off on baby murder. So actually, if you're watching this, you should write to the palace and tell the king not to sign off on baby murder. He does have the power to not sign the bill. Yes, it's not really been used since Queen Anne. And yes, the lefties want to pretend it's completely impossible. But this is baby murder. Tell me the last time between now and Queen Anne when we had baby murder. And if we didn't actually have anybody proposing baby murder, and we didn't between now and Queen Anne, then it's a perfectly justified time to go, do you know what? That power that we haven't used since Queen Anne, I'm going to use it now because they're suggesting baby murder, which we haven't had since King Herod, which was rather longer ago. So I really want to pressure the king. I personally haven't got the greatest respect for the current king. Of course, I have respect for the crown. I have the deepest respect for the Queen consort. I actually like Camilla, despite what anybody else thinks. I rate William a bit. I really rate Catherine, and I like the Princess Royal, and put a lot of state faith in the Princess Royal. And the Duke of Edinburgh has really come along in my books. He's to my mind, he's really manned up and stopped being. He was a bit of a prat when he was a young man, but I suppose it's quite hard in that circumstance. I shouldn't be too harsh on him. He wasn't mean. He's just a bit clownish, but he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate of royal duty. So the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh are included in that. That's the man who used to be called Prince Edward. But the current king, not a massive fan. Between failing empires and child sacrifice, well, that's awful, isn't it? I mean, child sacrifice, everybody I've ever liked in history. I mean, Rome fought Carthage because Carthage murdered babies. Now, Rome was very far from perfect, particularly in relation to babies that were born of prostitutes, and Rome allowed prostitution. But Rome fought Carthage because Rome didn't want public sacrifice of babies. We have to stand up to baby murder. It's outrageous. It's just outrageous. It should not be happening at all. A lot of people, whenever I mention Camilla, people go on and on about her spending money as though she wasn't a wealthy woman to begin with, and she's all her entire life she's been a wealthy woman. She's now a wealthy woman who does her public duties. I know wealthy people that, you know, some of them are good and some of them are bad, just like everybody else. She does her duty, and I think she's quite entertaining. And I like the fact that she smokes and drinks. I just think it's human. I like the fact that Nigel smokes and drinks. I think it's time to not be. Apparently, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who we all know is completely incompetent, is obsessed with her image. She has her own personal makeup and stylist. She will pose for photographs. She's crap at her job, but she will do all of that. She's obsessed with looking good, and Nigel just has a pint and a fag. These things are instinctive to me. So Camilla, I instinctively like. Princess Catherine I have the deepest respect for. She seems an absolute natural to the job. John says, what does it tell us about the king if he does? It tells us he's weak and pathetic and a waste of space and not fulfilling his duty as king. But it would have told us that if the king had signed off on Chagos Islands. And I didn't hear a peep out of him about the Chagos Islands. But he is the king. This is how our constitution works, right? He's the king of many places. When they were inside the empire, he's the king of many places and we're all together. But even then, we admitted that he was king of that place and this place and that place and this place and that place and that. He wasn't just king of the empire. He would have been king of that place and this place and this place and that place. Canada. I think South America have removed him now, but South Africa have removed him now, but New Zealand, Australia, British Virgin Islands, loads of places. And he's still king of loads of places. And one of the places he's king of is the British Indian Ocean Territory, which is what we know as Chagos, the Chagos Archipelago. And he is their king, and he's supposed to look after them. It's quite a balancing act, if you think. I'm king of Canada, I have to look after Canada. The UK has invaded Canada. That would cause a constitutional crisis. We, of course, haven't invaded Canada, which is a good thing. And we haven't invaded, nobody's invaded anybody inside the king's or the old queen's realm, which is great because that doesn't cause a constitutional crisis. But he's supposed to look after each of them equally. There was never a theory, it's never been part of a constitution, that he looks after the United Kingdom more, or that we're like a special child and we get special treatment. Everybody got looked after. So when Canada asked to be independent, Canada got to be independent. When Australia asked for a parliament, Australia got a parliament. You know, everybody was treated equally and with dignity and with respect, except Chagos. Chagos asks for a parliament, doesn't get it. Chagos asks him to look after them. He does nothing, absolutely nothing. And as far as we know, the British Prime Minister is about to come to him as the Prime Minister of the UK, not the Prime Minister of Chagos, as the Prime Minister of the UK, and say, betray Chagos, give it away and give away all our money to our enemies. Not a peep out of the king. I do think that is something to remember about the king. And 3 issues really for the king right now. baby murder, us murder, and what we call assisted suicide, Chagos. A good king really would have intervened on all three of those. Now, his mother would have intervened privately, and we'd never have known it, but she would have got us through. And her mother would have intervened privately, and her husband would have intervened privately, and we'd never known about it, but they would have got us through. He's done nothing. Nothing. Baby murder. Us murder. Chagos betrayal. Where's the king? It's like, oh, he's opening a coastal walk. Right. Yeah. Fantastic. He actually has a very important constitutional role to play. Could he please do his duty? Could the king do his duty? Now, I will get very muscular on the king and that royal family, because we are not victims of the royal family. We can manage them. We can change the line of succession. We can control it through parliament, and perhaps we should. John says it tells us he's betrayed his faith and people. The one thing the king is not lawfully allowed to do is to change the religion of this country. He is forced to both be a Protestant and a Church of England Protestant, and to be to defend the faith and to not change it. He's not allowed to change our faith. We are Church of England, and that's it. He is bound by that. It's one of the rare, normally the royal prerogative gives him powers, like the power to own any whale that is beached on the shore, or, you know, the power to own all the swans, all these little powers he has. Well, one of the only duties he has is that he cannot change the religion. So his fascination with Islam is charming, but misplaced. And if he is found to have changed his religion, well, that would be huge. And I think he'd end up like his namesake in that situation. But it does bring home to us that we need to restore the Church of England and the strength of the Church of England. King is king in name only, but that Tilly is not a sustainable position, because we need a king. And the primary function that the king has, or a queen, if it's a queen, has in our constitution, is to protect us from a dictator. That's their main role. They exist. That's the best thing about being a constitutional monarchy, is that it's really bloody hard, because dictators are always highly narcissistic people. That's why they kill people like me. But they're very narcissistic people. They won't bow to a king. They would expect the king to bow to them. Stalin's not bowing to any king. Hitler's not bowing to any king. You know, they expect everybody to bow to them. And so the primary constitutional function of our monarchy is to prevent a dictator. And if our king simply gives up his duty, Tilly, if he simply wanders off to open coastal trails and goes, oh, not my work, governor, well, then he's betrayed his constitutional function. And I think we really need to start talking about this a lot, and considering what we might want to do. I mean, one of the best kings we've ever had was George I, and it was he was very useful because he just didn't speak English. He only spoke German. So he was very useful, and it got us through quite a rough patch at the time. But we almost need the opposite of George I. We haven't suffered from an interventionist monarch. We've suffered from an absent monarch. And we need a present monarch. We don't need a monarch who sticks their beak in all the bloody time, but baby murder, us murder, Chagos. If you can't even do any one, just one of them would be fulfilling your constitutional duty as a king. But anyway, Brute Life says, I pledge that myself and my family will write a letter on this. I urge the 700 people watching to do the same. Yes, please do. Please do write a letter on this. It's fundamentally important. Tilly comes back with, but King not protecting us much as I love him. Yeah, he's not. He's failing. He's failing. If he abandons his duty, says John, who will stop him? Ultimately, Parliament. Ultimately, Parliament. Get a good person. I don't care if it's a man or woman. I think it's probably going to be Nigel Farage, but get them into Parliament, commanding majority in the House of Commons. Everything can be fixed. Once you have the will and the majority and very good lawyers, which is the substance of the thing. Those who bang on about Rupert, that's what's missing. It's going to be that third element that isn't there. But if you get Nigel Farage into the House of Commons as Prime Minister with a majority in the House of Commons, everything can be fixed, even including replacing the House of Windsor if necessary, or passing over Charles to William, or passing over Charles to Anne, and then managing the succession so that it goes from Anne to William. We can literally do everything. Nothing is impossible for Parliament. The only thing Parliament can't do, and this goes back to something called Dr. Bottom's case in the early 1600s. And in Dr. Bottom's case, they admit that Parliament can't do impossible things, and that's true. Parliament can't end gravity. Okay, House of Commons can't stop gravity. It can't make walls just as I say, it can't give us magic powers. It can't make water run uphill. It can't do what we call impossible or irrational things. But other than that, Parliament can do everything, including change the line of succession, which it's done. We brought in William and Mary. We got rid of James. We got rid of the current king's great uncle. We brought in George I. Parliament can do everything. We are a managed monarchy, it's not a free for all based entirely upon hereditary principles. We are a more sophisticated country than that. Tilly very generously, thank you, Tilly, and thank you to everybody who's donated. It does make a massive difference. Always makes me smile that people do it. Still can't really believe that people do. So I really do appreciate it. I've just hearted that. I probably should have hearted I'm going to try and heart everybody who donated because it's really just lovely. If you don't get a heart, I mean for you to get a heart, but I'm just not doing it. I have to go back to Silly's question because one thing is like time out, but I must have basic manners. Ooh, somebody sent a let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. Ooh, that's Ian. Well done, Ian. And that is a pretty funky dancing doodah. No idea what I'm doing. Tilly says Stephen Barrett for PM. Tilly, you are way too generous. No, don't. I would happily help any government that genuinely wants to fix the country. I think I am more useful. Do I really believe Parliament will protect us? John, Parliament, do not judge it by the current people in it. I literally expect of those 650 MPs, I don't expect more than 20 to be back after the next election. Of the current speaker, he's not going to be speaker after the next election. I think there's going to be a massive clear out of Parliament. And once Parliament is free and safe, then yes, I think Parliament is going to I think it's going to get better. If I could just live it long enough to see King William. Yeah, Tilly, I suspect William is a lot better than we think. But a lot of this was foreseen. The books of Michael Dodd, which were then, and he's currently in the House of Lords, which were then made into a brilliant television series, House of Cards, and then became the US series. But the British series eventually foresaw that Charles probably would have to be forced to abdicate. And I don't see anything necessarily happening that makes me think he isn't going to have to abdicate. Ice Kitty, a cute phrase, doth not a country run? And there are serious problems. The Grand Mufti of Cyprus shockingly accused Charles III of secretly being a Muslim. Did you know? I mean, people could accuse me of all sorts of things. Unless the king tells me he's a Muslim or we find out in some definitive way, and we just have to ignore that one. He is too close to Islam, in my opinion. Nobody's stemming the tide of Islam. That will come. So the good Muslims have, in the last week, good Muslims have started speaking out. And we have our friends in the UAE. There is a clear path to goodness. Christians have gone off the boil before. Even Sikhs have had, and they're mostly sensible, but even they have had Sikh terrorists. We've had Buddhist terrorists. So every religion can go off the boil. We just have to accept that Islamist extremists are off the boil, that they're worse in Britain than in many Muslim countries other than Iran, and that we have to listen to our good Muslim friends and not try and burn Nick Timothy alive for saying what's bloody obviously true. Let's just shut up, and then don't claim that I'm hating all Muslims, because I don't hate all Muslims. Just go away. I am opposed to the dangerous people doing wrong things. It's this ridiculous lefty position whereby if you don't support everybody, then you hate them all. And it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm not a binary computer. I'm an analog human brain capable of nuance and thought. Right. I don't see any last question. You tell them. Thank you, Queen Bee. Thank you. Yes, I will. I do feel it's just yes. We never get to see good Muslims in the news. We have, Polly, this week there was definitely one on Talk, and there was definitely one on GB, and there's Layla Cunningham. Pay attention to Layla Cunningham. She is a good-hearted, decent human being. I got to meet her at a party recently, and she's just obviously good and just obviously nice. So and always remember, I don't name her because she's not publicly facing, but Biscuit and Bella have a very loving Muslim friend who looks after them. She spoils them. She makes a fuss out of them. She lets them jump up and lick her. I don't let them. The dogs aren't allowed to lick me. But just don't let people try and convince you that all Muslims are bad ones. That is just not true. And we won't get out of this if we go down that road. But what we must agree is that aggressive, sex-segregated public praying in important public spaces is just not cricket. It's not on. It's not happening. Absolutely fine with your mosques. Go to your mosques. And that's the line that we have to hold. Okay? Dogs know the good people. Well, if my doggos know the good people, and they do, it includes a very nice Muslim lady who has always bought a Christmas present for small person the whole of Small's life, which is just nice. Just nice people. Right. Some are lovely. Just like, exactly. God doesn't make life so easy that it's like, the mistakes of the past. All gay people are evil. Well, obviously not. All Muslims are evil. Obviously not. All Christians are evil. Obviously not. All brown people are evil. Obviously not. It just life. If life were that simple, things are so much easier before. But it's just not how things are. All women are good. No. All women are bad. No. We need to get back to understanding and thinking, and not be allowed to be pushed into this ridiculous stuff. Polly says Layla is just great, which I think is true. I don't know Zia. I've never met him, and I mean I'm not really connected. But I just happened to meet Layla at a party. I didn't expect to meet her at a party, but it was a nice party in London, supporting the rule of law, which is exactly the type of place I think you'd all expect me to be. And I was. And so was Layla. So Layla was supporting the rule of law. Do I still think the government collapsed in 2027? I think we'll be lucky if it makes it that far. Yes, I do. I do think we're still looking at a general election in 2027. I think we're looking at Keir Starmer collapsing relatively quickly. I think the best case scenario for Keir Starmer is the 8th of May. But that's ridiculous. Hillary is here. Oh, no. Hillary's been in A&E. Oh, Hillary, that's terrible. Hillary, message me privately about that. That's awful. I don't like to see that. I hope your husband is better. But Hillary is from my Substack, The Lovelies. And if people are interested, if people like this, you get a weekly Q&A if you pay to subscribe to my Substack. I'm intermittent on YouTube. But we have to work out everything is. Everybody give love to Hillary. I'm going to give love to Hillary. Just going to click this hearty thing. Can you see that? What does that even mean? I don't know. It means we wish Hillary well. Right. Yes, I think it's worth writing to the king about dissolving parliament, but probably not yet. Because at the moment, it still looks as though somebody could command a majority, and the king shouldn't be willy-nilly dissolving parliament. We should write to the king about dissolving parliament when it looks as though nobody can command a majority, which is probably after the next Labour leader, and if not, then after the one after that. And the one after that will go really quickly. That's like just going to crash, car crash. And this is because structurally, you cannot govern the country. And the most important news story today is not anything we've talked about, but it's an obscure article in the Telegraph about the civil service not working. Because if the civil service doesn't work, and it doesn't, no one can govern. Okay, right. Make it illegal to persecute apostate Muslims in Europe. Yes, well, it is. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Paulus, it is unlawful to persecute apostate Muslims. or even to call them apostate Muslims, frankly, because they're entitled to their freedom of religion. And if they wish to stop being Muslims, then they stop being Muslims. And that doesn't make them any sort of nasty or dirty word. And violence is simply not accepted. And I think the existing legal structures we have can still, I would delete something like 80% of the laws, and I still think we'd be left with more than enough law to govern a healthy country and to not have things like that. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you there, Paulus. If anybody has a last minute question, then go now, or stay silent and forever hold your peace, as they say. Okay. Looking like nobody does. Good. I think this has been fun. How do I end these? Stephen never knows what he's doing. And hopefully more content with Annunziata and Mike Graham's show, 7 a.m. And yeah, I look knackered because I'm knackered to go on. I have to do so much before Mike Graham's show. Anyway, everybody take care. Carry on having a lovely weekend. Have a nice Saturday night. Hillary, you deserve a glass of wine, or whatever you prefer. Bye, everybody.